Good evening, everybody. My name is Tracy Craig. I'll be moderating tonight's meeting. The meeting tonight, this is Alameda County Department of Environmental Health's community meeting to discuss the Alameda Marina Townhome redevelopment project. That's different than the project that is the Alameda Marina LLC project. This is at the far end. And Mark, help me, is it the south end of the site, I think it would be? The far southern end of the Alameda Marina site. The project sponsor is Land C, different than Alameda Marina. They were to have started this project about 6 months ago, but the project got shut down when we noticed folks because there was some problems with dust. Again, that wasn't Land C doing that, that was Alameda Marina. And they've now been given clearance by Alameda County to restart their project. So we want to tell you about that with a focus on the community protection measures that will be in place to make sure that offsite impacts are minimized to the greatest extent possible. Next slide, please, Greg. Okay, while you're trying to change the slide, perfect. I am going, oh, there we are, there's the slide. I'm going to go ahead and introduce who we have here tonight. So with me, I'm Tracy Craig. With me is Greg Townsend. He's doing the behind the scenes magic. I have Dylan Rowe, who's the Chief of Land and Water for Alameda County Department of Environmental Health, the community's dear friend, because she's the one that stopped the project at Alameda Marina when there was dust problems and made them shape up and get things going right. And Dylan, can you just wave your hand so everybody knows who you are? Also with me is Drew York from Alameda County. He's the project manager. And then we have Scott Johns. Scott Johns is from NGO, which is a consulting firm. He's the third-party independent consultant that will oversee air monitoring and stockpile dust management. And then also we have folks from Land C. Of course, we have Mark Chamberlain, who is a vice president of, I think, land development and forward planning. I think I had that right. Yes. And then Nicole Hunt, who works for Mark, and we also have Kiara Basco, who works with Nicole, and they do the day-to-day project management for Land C. Okay, so you can see here's the site on the southern end. In yellow is Alameda Marina Townhomes. That's the site we're talking about specifically tonight. And next slide, Greg. Site overview, they've been entitled to build townhomes. I'm not going to read this to you. There was there is some contamination on the site from historic activities. Land C didn't contaminate the site, but they are addressing contamination to support their redevelopment project. And then Alameda County Department of Environmental Health provides oversight of environmental activities. The city of Alameda provides oversight of redevelopment construction. It's just important to note that because there's a time in this when we're done with the actual environmental cleanup, oversight will go to the city of Alameda. And if there's complaints about construction, those calls need to be routed to Alameda. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay, next slide. How did we get here tonight? So as I said, in September, we sent out a work notice saying that Land C had clearance to start their work, which is again at the southern end of the site, independent from Alameda LLC's work. In response to that fact sheet, we got quite a few complaints from community members saying that there was lots of dust, that it was going unchecked. Perfect time to put on your mask, Greg. That it was going unchecked. And people were very unhappy. So Alameda County went out there, agreed that the stockpiles were not being managed correctly, that there was too much dust impact from the work, and they shut down Alameda Marina's project. I think probably community members remember that. And it was shut down, I think, almost for 2 months until we had a soil management plan in place. We had a third-party contractor to manage dust in place, till we worked with the community members to understand what the issues were. Power washed homes, did some other things. And we learned a lot of lessons going forward, which Land C will employ. And I do want to say that Land C had every intention of managing their stockpiles and doing dust management. They already had NGO on board. But nevertheless, we learned a lot, and they're going to benefit from that. And they've made a commitment that we'll see improved soil stockpiling out there, third-party monitors for dust, and all the things that we've been doing that have kept community complaints to a minimum. We'll go through those in greater detail. during this presentation. Once again, I just want to stress Alameda County oversees the environmental activities. After that work is done, 3 or 4 months, City of Alameda comes behind there and oversees the actual construction. So next slide. Before I give this over to Dylan, I just want to say a couple things. We'd like this to be an interactive meeting, so you can unmute yourself. I've given you privileges for us to see you or for you to talk at any time. If you don't want to do that, please just raise your hand. I'm monitoring that, and I'll call on you. You can also type a question if you have one in the question and answer box or the chat box. And I will make sure that those get answered. We have maybe a 15-minute presentation followed by questions and answers. We'll get all of you out of here by 7:30 tonight. Okay, Dylan.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dylan Rowe, and I am the Chief of the Land and Water Protection Division for Alameda County. If some of you know me from the previous project that Tracy was talking about, I'm going to not talk a long time tonight. Drew is going to do the presentation, but I want to say that we take the community protection measures really seriously in your neighborhood. And as Tracy said, a lot of lessons learned from the previous developer who went a little AWOL. And this team, I have a lot of confidence in this team. I have a lot of confidence in Lancy and NGO to monitor and do the work. And this is a site that Alameda County Environmental Health is going to be involved in for a relatively short time during remedial soil excavation activities. And then it's going to shift over. There's still going to be a lot of soil moving, but it's going to, or potential dust generating activities. But at that point in time, it's really going to shift to BACMed and the City of Alameda to enforce these things. But, you have a great team here that is committed to making sure that your community is protected, and including, Tracy Craig. She's been a champion here, and I expect that to continue. And so anyways, I am here. I will shut Mark's group down too, if I need to. But I don't think I'm going to need to. Mark has been great and has been waiting. So I have every confidence that this is going to go smoothly. And but I am there, I am out here, and you can absolutely, if you've got complaints, funnel them through Tracy, and I will respond to them. Okay.
Thank you, Dylan. And just for those of you, BACMed is the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, so they have a sign up there too for dust complaints once we're in real construction work. Okay, next slide. Okay, so I am going to hand this over to Drew York, who is the project manager for Alameda County. He'll walk us through the work that's being done, and then most importantly, community protection measures. Again, I encourage anybody that's giving up their evening to join us to raise their hand and ask a question if they wish, or type a question in the chat box. Drew?
Yeah, thank you, Tracy. Also, thank you for looks like there's 5 participants who attended. So thank you. We like the community to be involved in their surroundings and in their community. So thank you for attending. I'll be talking about the upcoming remedial actions. Tentatively, they're going to be starting on the 24th, when we'll talk scheduled later. But there's been a series of subsurface investigations at the site. Results of those investigations did indicate there was some impacts to the soil. For the remedial actions, there's about 19 locations where about 10,000 cubic yards, which is roughly 1,000 truckloads of contaminated soil will be removed. The depths from where they'll be removed at is about 2 feet to 7 feet below ground surface. Once that excavated soil is taken up, it'll be stockpiled and in 3 locations, which we'll show those locations in the next slide, prior to being transported off-site. Yeah, maybe we go back to the slide before, and then so the transportation of the contaminated materials will be conducted in accordance with our characterization guidance for import-export, and it will be disposed at a ACDH approved licensed disposal facility. And then once those the excavations are open, there's going to be confirmation sampling done. Confirmation sampling will be conducted at the base of the excavation and the sidewall, and then they'll be using an X-ray fluorescence device, as well as sending samples for laboratory analysis. And based on those results, additional excavations may be needed. Groundwater at the site is relatively shallow. It's around 5 feet, and it is influenced tidally by the tidal canal that is in very close proximity. So as a result, when the excavations are open, there will be some dewatering, and that excavated or removed groundwater will be containerized. Usually they're in Baker tanks, which are big black tanks, or they're in what looks to be like a Conex box. They're called rain for rent containers, and they'll be containerized in those containers and then transported off-site for at a licensed disposal facility. The bullet at the bottom, the bold bullet, the cleanup work will last 3 to 4 months. That's our oversight. That's ACDEH's oversight. And then from there, the city of Alameda, as well as the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, will provide oversight. Next slide, thank you. So there's a couple things I'd like to point out on this figure. The purple, yellow, and red kind of boxes, those are the 19 proposed excavation locations, and they are color coded by depth, the purple being 2, the yellow being 2 to 4 feet, and then the red being 7 feet of excavation. You'll see the hatching. Those are the temporary stockpile locations before they're transported off-site. And then also we'd like to point out the air monitoring locations. There's going to be 5 of those around the perimeter, 1 upwind, 2 along Clement there, and then 2 downwind as well. Next slide, thank you. So for soil management, as Tracy said, we've learned some lessons from working with Alameda Marina LLC, and we've got some beefier soil management practices in place. You can see here the truck down below, that's a water truck that keeps the soil damp, and then there'll be reduced speeds on site to not kick up the dust. If it is a windy day, they will be stopping earthwork if winds do exceed 15 miles per hour. They'll be ensuring that equipment is free of soil before leaving the site. That's usually a decontamination area where they'll be brushing off the tire trucks or the truck tire, excuse me, or have rumble strips. There will be street sweeping along Clement, and then there will be communication for land, sea, as well as agencies if you need to reach out. For the soil stockpile management, excavated soil will be placed in 3 locations, as we talked about and showed on the previous slide. The stockpiles will be no larger than 10 feet. The stockpiles will be covered, and only the working face will be exposed. And then clean stockpiles to support the grading will be visible after our oversight is conducted. And stormwater management, so site runoff is controlled. That's usually by filters like silt socks and straw bales, things of that nature. And then also there is a severe weather plans that is in place at the site.
Hey,
Thanks.
I'm going to stop you for just a moment. We have a question in one of the boxes. What about air monitoring in the direction of the marina proper towards the estuary? So Greg, I'm going to ask you to go back to that map that has all the stuff. I think it's the previous one. And we can look at that and you can address that. Or maybe Scott, you can address that, or Dylan. So moving back up, there you are. So the marina is where you see the grayed out area with the boat, slips. And somebody wants to know, what about air monitoring in the direction of the marina proper towards the estuary? So do we have an air monitor placed in that area?
I can take the first one, and Drew or Dylan, if you want to add to it. Yeah, this is
Scott, again, just introduce yourself. Yeah.
Scott with NGO. Yeah, we've been working with the county on the air plan, and yeah, as you can see, we've kind of put a perimeter around the site. And what's important to know is we're doing dust observation as well as the monitoring. And so we've seen that the prevailing wind is kind of to the east, and that's where you can see the dust monitors are upwind and downwind. As far as anything to that marina, we'll be keeping an eye on that. And if there is some concern that's observed, then we can add one. But at this point, this is what we've prepared that is protective of the community.
And I would just note that having been out there and actually out to the marina, I think people were concerned about that. It was primarily when Alameda Marina LLC was doing work on the northern side of the property. But Dylan, did you just want to chime in or add anything, or Drew?
I will say something. I think that, when I was reviewing, Drew and I were reviewing and approving the locations of the air monitoring stations, we were looking at protecting the residences, across the streets. It did not dawn on me that people use boats and also want to make sure they're protected. So I think that is, I don't know, I don't know the marina, but it makes sense. People live here and they use the marina. And they want to make sure that stuff is not getting on there, that they don't have air quality issues there. Although I suspect, I don't know, maybe the person who asked the question, those aren't houseboats, right? Those are places.
They're not houseboats, but they do have liveaboards there. People are still living aboard there. I do think, if I'm not mistaken, that all of those slips there, if I'm not mistaken, I think people are there, but Alameda Marina is doing some things. They're supposed to rebuild them. So I think they're slowly getting vacated. And Anthony, if you would unmute yourself and answer that, that would be helpful for us. Anthony is the one that asked the question.
Okay.
Anthony? Let me see what he's doing there. Here we go. Why don't you, Anthony, I promoted you to panelist, but I've also allowed you to talk. Oh, the power.
Wait, sorry, my kids are screaming. What did you want me to say?
We were just wondering, I don't think people are living aboard those boats. I think maybe a few are, but they're not houseboats and they're not made for liveaboards. And I don't even know if those slips are going away. I think people are slowly vacating them right now. Is that correct?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm pretty certain I'm right because I've been out there.
Okay.
Okay, but you did hear that the monitors are placed downwind in the way the prevailing wind blows, so that's why there isn't one right by the estuary.
Oh, that was actually not my question. I think
it wasn't. Oh my goodness.
No, I asked the question about the location of the stockpiles.
Oh, okay. Forgive me. Well, we're going to get to that question right now then. Let me do that one.
Thank
How
you.
long will the stockpiles be kept on site? Also, it looks like there is a stockpile near Clement. Why can't it be moved away from Clement and the residential areas? What a great question. Drew, would you like to answer that?
I don't think that's Drew's question.
Oh, it isn't. Okay.
I think that is for Mark to talk about, because I think that's a legitimate question. There's a big stockpile right next to the neighbors on Clement. Can that stockpile be moved?
Hi, this is Mark Chamberlain. I'm Vice President at Lancy Homes of Full Planning and Land Development. I will be managing the site from here on out. I have two other people with me here this evening that will do the day-to-day management. But I can tell you that the existing stockpile that is there is not Lancy stockpile. That is Alameda Marina stockpile. And as far as I know, they have a permit to have their stockpile there. So I cannot speak to that stockpile when it's going to move or when it's going to stay, because it is Alameda Marina LLC stockpile to manage.
So I'm confused. Are we talking about the hatch stockpiles, which is where you're going to have your stockpiles on your property?
That's where I'm going to have my stockpiles, but there's nothing there currently.
No, but you are going to. So we're talking about you are going to put things there, right?
Yes, I will. Yes.
And is that stockpiles, Mark, of contaminated soil, or are those stockpiles of clean soil for surcharging at a later date?
Those stockpiles that are cross-hatched on this map are contaminated soil.
Okay.
We will stockpile it there. We will test it immediately as it's put there. It takes us about a week to get those. We spent extra resources to have expedited testing of those materials. Okay. When we get that testing back, we can itemize it and calculate where it has to go to a particular offsite location. So I would estimate that those stockpiles will be in there at a range of between 2 to 5 weeks.
So
well, I guess my question is, like, it's basically right along Clement, and I'm looking at this map here, and I'm seeing building 26, 27, 25, there's space there. Why can't the stockpiles be placed further away from residential areas if they're contaminated?
You know, that's a good question. Thank you very much for saying that. We located them there because it's going to cause the least disruption of soil movement to that area.
Well, I mean, but isn't that the most potential for soil, contaminated soil, drifting to residential areas? It seems very close to the houses.
Let me say one other thing to this. Again, Scott with NGO. We also, when we looked at things to try to be efficient, but also by having these areas, we're also going to be able to limit the height of the stockpiles, because if we had smaller areas, we would have a higher mound, and that would have a greater chance that because of the elevation, there could be more offsite drifting. And all these piles are going to be covered and protected in plastic.
Well, I understand that, but I mean, there's been times where they have been uncovered, and like when it rains, I've seen them, the covers blow off. I mean, granted they're wet, but I'm just saying, I mean, if we're talking about smaller stockpiles, why not locate multiple smaller stockpiles on 28, 27, 26, and 25?
Okay, so I'm going to jump in here. That is a valid request. That's a valid request. This is contaminated soil.
It is a valid request, but having multiple smaller stockpiles is not going to be efficient.
No, I'm not talking about.
Well, I mean, frankly, I don't care about efficiency.
I just want you to talk one at a time. So Dylan was going to say something, and then
there has to be. So there's a couple of things going on here. We want to be protective of the community, and one way that you do that is you move the material less. So if you have to travel a long ways, every time you pick it up and move it, that's one thing. So I'm just putting out the things that happen. I do hear this discussion about this being there. Can you rotate that stockpile to move it at least? Rotate it 90 degrees, so it's not, it is farther away from the
Amen.
Mark?
You mean towards buildings 5, 6, and 7?
I can't read anything. The one
Yes.
to get it away from Clement.
Yeah, that seems easy enough to do. Yeah, I could do that.
Okay. So I think that that is a reasonable, I mean, there's earth moving that has to happen here. We do want to be efficient. We want to be efficient because when you're not efficient, you are moving contaminated soil more often, and we do not want to do that. So I would suggest and I'm hoping, and Anthony, I'm hoping that may be a compromise that you would accept, is that gets rotated so that it isn't sitting right up against the edge, and that stockpile is going to be managed very well. If there becomes a dust complaint at this place, we will shut this project down. Okay, so I mean, I need there to be some ability for Mark's group to do the work they need to do. And do it, and I'm hearing your complaint. So does that seem a reasonable compromise?
But I mean, potentially. I mean, I'm no expert on the distances and the scales here, so yeah.
I think it will be, if we rotate it, I think it will actually be fairly far away. You'll be able to see it, but it will be fairly far away. And I think that, coupled with the covering, and Anthony, I just want to assure you, you can call me. I'm going to put my number in the chat box right now. Anytime, if there's any issues, uncovered, whatever, we'll be right on it.
Yeah, I mean, is there any idea of what the distances would be from Clement if we were to rotate that stockpile?
I can answer that. It's going to be at least 75 to 100 feet further away from Clement.
And so the total distance from the stockpile to Clement would be what?
It would be around 75 to 100 feet.
The total distance. Okay.
Yeah. Right now it's around 25. It's around 15 feet.
See, that's super close. I mean, because right now, like the existing stockpiles are just right up against our house, almost, right up against Clement. So yeah,
well, we have the distance. We have the width of Clement. But I think what Dylan Rowe is suggesting is that we rotate it 180 degrees to move it further away from Clement.
Yeah, I understand. Well, just so you know, I mean, I live here. I know my neighbors. If we know there's contaminated soil and we feel like it's right up against our houses, there will be a lot of anxiety about this project.
Yeah,
the idea why we're here is to remove the contaminated soil. It's there. It was there from the beginning. It's been there for 80 years. We're just removing it to make the whole area safer for everybody.
No, I understand that, but it's like asbestos, right? Asbestos is relatively inert until you move it, right?
So Anthony, what I do want to say is I think we'll flip it. I think we're going to leave it there right now and move forward.
Okay, thank you.
But I do want to thank you, because that's exactly why we're having this. And I really want to assure you that the previous project, we learned a lot of lessons, and I don't think most folks know that we're doing this work. And I think that we'll be able to manage this very effectively, and that you'll be quite happy. And if you're not, and we get multiple complaints, Dylan will stop this project and we'll have to regroup. And that's the last thing anybody wants, the developer or the city or even the community, right? We don't want it to drag out any longer.
So let's get this thing rotated. There is a screen, right? Mark, your fence is, how tall is your fence with the silt screen on it?
That's 6 feet high, Dylan.
Okay, you got 6 feet. That you're limiting the stockpile height to 10 feet.
Correct.
Let's get it off of that and let's manage this. And Anthony, if it is a problem, it will stop being a problem.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for considering our concerns.
No,
Thank you.
I'm glad you brought it up. Very good point.
I have two more questions. So one was the folks that asked the boat question, and they just said they sit on the boat and they want to make sure they're okay sitting on the boat, just sitting outside and enjoying the weather and so forth. And Scott, I think the answer for that is that you're monitoring the area, you're looking at dust. There shouldn't be any impacts. If there are, we have plans in place to quickly address that. So you should be able to sit in relative comfort on your boat without being impacted by anything.
And then I would like to say that if there's a problem, we will put an air monitor over there. right? So the goal is don't have the problem. If there is a problem, we'll regroup, but then put one over there. I have every confidence. But I also know that wind kicks up at this place because when I went and shut down the other project, I felt like I was being sandblasted in my face, right, from the wind. So I think that I want to not just say, you know, this is absolute, nothing's going to happen. I would say, I think this is a good plan. If as the project goes on, if it looks like a monitoring station needs to be over along the perimeter where the boats are, then we can put one in easily. Okay.
Okay, and then I have one other question that's related to this. Can someone comment on the amount of contaminants and the relative danger?
Mr. Scott Johns.
I can go unless Dylan or Drew, you guys wanted to jump in.
I'm gonna just jump in for a second. So this area of Alameda has a lot of the bay edge, or the edge that abuts the water, has a lot of different contamination. There's the good news about this site is it does not have the marsh crust contamination, which is along a lot of this bay, this shoreline, and has pretty significant contaminants and so that's the good news about this. This stuff is, you can see, you know, the spots on the pink and the orange and the green. It's shallow. Most of it's shallow. It's really, and I believe, Scott, it's mostly lead. And so, you know, there's lead everywhere. There's probably lead on my home, in my backyard, right? There is lead in Alameda County all over the place from use of lead-based paint. This is probably associated with some fill material, some moving stuff around, some maintenance, but the idea is that we keep it out of the air, we move it off the site, and then this site becomes clean. As I think somebody said previously, this stuff has been sitting there for a long time. So this is gonna improve this. It's a fairly short time frame to excavate. We don't want you inhaling lead. Nobody does, right? We don't want the dust going. That's why we're going to have very strict dust control measures here.
Okay. I think that answered it. I think, Dylan, also, we did do a human health risk assessment on the other stockpiles, if you recall. That's when everything was flowing around, and we found that even with sensitive populations and the amount of soil exposure, people, there wasn't an adverse chance for health effects.
Yeah,
and that,
that's right.
That study is online.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep going. It's 7:05, and I did promise we'd save time for Q&A. And I think there's just one other question I'd like to get to. I live on Eagle between Willow and Stanford, behind the auto body shop. My backyard floods during storms at this time. What mitigations are planned during rainstorms? I think our next slide actually talks about stormwater and pollution prevention plans. So if we'll move forward 2 slides, I think, Greg, we will make sure that we address that. So what are we doing for stormwater that might run off site? Right there, stormwater. So Drew?
Yeah, Dylan, do you want to take this?
Stormwater is in fact regulated by the city of Alameda. They are responsible for stormwater requirements. City of Alameda is responsible for a lot of things. That being said, we are going to enforce, we expect the city of Alameda to enforce the SWIP requirements at this site. So the stormwater pollution prevention plan requirements, and it's both the city of Alameda and the, Scott, is it the State Water Board? And so there are, construction sites are everywhere. And so there is a really well oiled machine for what are called, best management practices and keeping things out of stormwater. That being said, that stuff can get blown past also. So Mark is going to do a good job of complying with his SWIP, his stormwater pollution prevention. We have requirements that you have to have things like rumble pads and decontamination of trucks that move off of the site so that you don't move things off site. There should be no runoff of this site at all. And that is what the SWIP is in place for.
Okay. All right, let's keep going. Next slide, please.
Yep,
Greg?
thank you. Yeah, so dust control and air monitoring, as Tracy said, and I mentioned before, we've beefed up our dust monitoring and air monitoring requirements, learning a lot from Alameda Marina, LLC. This includes the perimeter air monitoring that will be conducted in real time. It says 5 here. However, if we need a 6th one, then that will be considered. There'll be trigger and remote alarms when the action levels are exceeded, and the action levels are set to be health protective, so they can take additional action before there's a potential risk. So additional other items to discuss is there will be a full-time independent third-party dust control staff on site. And they'll,
again, that's Scott Johns, who's here tonight, or one of his staff.
Yeah, one of his, yep. And they are very familiar with the community response protocols. They report to us and they submit the data from the dust monitors on a weekly schedule. And they also have stop work authority. For contingency plans, the stop work until the situation is under control. Scott has the authority to do that. They can increase dust mitigation measures. That would include, dampening the soil more, or adding more rumble strips or something of that nature. And then they'll review the protocols with each of the contractors on site. And then lastly, we, during the 2 to 4 months of remedial excavation, we can stop by unannounced and check out the situation. And then once the remediation is done, then the city and the Bay Area Air Quality Management District will also do that as well. Next slide. So the truck management and route, we were talking about this beforehand, and Mark, if you want to chime in, but all the trucks will be staged on site, as well as all the construction workers. Parking will be staged on site. At the height of the excavation, there'll be 25 trucks per day with 50 round trips. For a period of roughly 7 to 10 days. They will be limiting the idle time and track out prevention. As I mentioned before, those are rumble strips, decon areas, things of that nature. There will be ongoing driver training, and then the city of Alameda is the one who monitors the truck routes, and they'll be responsible for that. However, we will be making sure that is adhered to. And again, general things must obey all traffic rules, and the trucks will not park on any of the residential streets.
Well, and actually, I believe the site is big enough right now that they can have people park on site as well. So, okay. Mark, did you want to add anything to that about the trucks?
Well, Drew did a very good job of explaining, the trucks entering the site and the cleaning of them. We don't have any buildings on the site, so he is correct. We can manage all of the truck cleaning on site. And the truck route is established by the city of Alameda, and we're following that truck route. We have submitted all our applications to the city of Alameda for those truck route use routes, and we have a permit to do that. So we're obeying all the rules and regulations of not only the county health department, but the city as well.
Perfect. And I'd just like to remind folks that Clement is the truck route for the city of Alameda. So not all trucks you see will be associated with this project, or even Alameda Marina. All the trucks from Alameda are coming down. Most of them are coming down Clement. Okay, next
That's
slide.
a good point. You know, we're going to have a lot of trucks there, but we're not going to be the only trucks.
Exactly. And again, if you have issues or questions about trucking, you can always call me if trucks are in your way or queuing up on your streets or starting too early. Please feel free to call me 24/7. My number's in the chat box, and I actually answer my phone. I think most people know me out there. Communications. So we do have that site signage with my name up there in huge, huge letters. There's my cell phone, and you can call me evening and weekends as well. Our protocol is that people call me. I have a direct line to Scott Johns. If there's a air issue or dust issue, we figure out what's going on and we quickly take action. That includes if a stockpile is not covered, or even if it's not covered on the weekend, we'll get a crew out there to address it. And then I follow up with the community member and let them know how things were resolved. So any issues that you have at all with the work during Alameda County's oversight portion, please call me directly and I will troubleshoot with you till we get it resolved to your satisfaction. All of our reports are up on the environmental and the website called GeoTracker, and there's a link we'll be showing you in just a minute, so you can access any reports. If it's too complicated to go to GeoTracker because it's a little bit difficult to figure out, please call me and I'll get you the report you need. I'll send you the link, so I'll make it easy on you. And next slide, I think, is just our schedule. Thank you. So environmental cleanup work is actually going to start on January 24th. That's Monday. Get ready. We wanted to make sure that you also know that there's a small portion of work that Alameda Marina will be doing to ready the site for land sea, and that's removing, it's about 2 to 3 days of work. It's removing soil in utility quarters. So soil where they will actually be laying utility lines. And that's a 2 to 3 day project that will also be starting on January 24th. I don't think it will be a marked difference for people looking at the site, but we just wanted to let folks know in trying to be forthright what we're doing out there. Again, environmental work is about 3 to 4 months, and then follows directly behind is redevelopment construction. That's going to be the city of Alameda. We've told you that several times. Land Sea has agreed to send out a work notice before that work happens with appropriate contacts. And also, if there's significant interest, they'll be hosting a community meeting to let people know about that next phase of development. Communications ongoing. Call me. Work hours, Monday through Friday, 7 to 7 p.m. No noise generating work until 8 a.m. So, and then on Saturday, they also have clearance. Want to make it clear, City of Alameda has set those hours, not Alameda County Department of Environmental Health. I think that is the end of our presentation. I do have one question that somebody, I have another question in the chat box. I have one question that somebody asked, and that was about the design. So I'm just going to ask Mark this question. And if you would answer it quickly, it's, does the design, how has this site design planned for sea level rise? And I think I can actually cover most of this as part of the work of part of getting entitled for the site. Alameda Marina LLC, so not Land Sea, had to rebuild the entire seawall the length of the property to plan for sea level rise. So that is a huge benefit to the community. That wall was old and decrepit, and now it is planned for sea level rise into, I don't know, some kind of perpetuity. Did I get that right, Mark?
That is correct. The seawall at our entire frontage along the estuary there was raised to account for sea level rise.
Perfect. Okay. And then we have a question in the chat box. What happens if contaminated dirt ends up on the street, as in the truck leaks? I don't know who, first of all, I'm going to say that the trucks are inspected before they leave. The undercarriages are clean. The tires are cleaned. They're swept off if necessary. There's water involved. So the trucks are clean, and I think we would catch if something was leaking.
Correct. If anything was leaking there, we would catch it before it leaves the site. In addition to that, as an additional safety measure, we will have street sweepers going up and down Clement Avenue.
And then the trucks are also, all your trucks will be covered when they exit the site. No truck with soil will be exiting uncovered.
That is correct.
Okay. Other questions people might have? Oh, will contractor parking occur on Clement, which is residential along this section of construction? Yeah, this is a really big issue that a lot of contractors, employees are parking on residential streets, and they're leaving trash and a mess. So Mark, we actually talked about this. Can you address that question?
Certainly. We have, a fairly big site. We have more than enough room for our contractors to park on our site. And we've designated parking areas, and we're laying down gravel so they can go and park in those areas and mitigate dust control by laying down gravel. So we will be off-site. We'll be on our own site.
And then another, another thing that Alameda Marina is doing, and Dylan, help me out here, they are actually going to be paving part of their site to get contractors off of the streets and parking on their site. They've just received city approval to do that. There'll be a work notice going out around then. I don't think it will offer immediate relief for the parking, but it will probably offer relief by the summertime. We'll get a lot of the contractors off the street because we heard you folks loud and clear, and we don't really have a lot of authority to let people to not have some of these employees park because they're union folks and they have certain requirements, and we didn't have a lot of teeth to do that. So Alameda Marina is going to pave areas and let people park there. And you'll get a work notice in short order about that. Okay, other questions? You can type them in the chat. You can raise your hand. I'll give you a couple more minutes. What precautions will the workers, here's another one. What precautions will the workers be taking when they work on the site, and should those of us who move through the marina take the same precautions? So I'm thinking the workers that are working in the contaminated soil, what precautions are they taking? If you're taking a shortcut through the marina, which you can do, you can walk through the site, do people need to be at all concerned?
Well, our site is a construction site. We will not be allowing any of the public to enter our site. So that's the precaution. Do not come onto our site. It's fenced off. We own it. There's no public access. Do not come onto our site.
And I would just say that the air monitoring that we're doing is designed also to protect our workers, and the workers do wear public protective gear because they're right in the soil. And our goal really is not to have any offsite impacts. So if we're controlling dust on site, it should not impact people that are walking by.
Yeah, I mean, as a protective measure, I would, wear a COVID mask, COVID approved mask, and then 95 mask, just like you would walking around or to go into any restaurant or bar or anywhere else. It may be prudent for you to wear a mask when you're accessing your boat, if you're going through Alameda Marina's site to access your boat or houseboat or your slip.
Okay, other questions? There's another one in the Q&A, hang on here. Can we have contaminated soil closest to Clement? Oh, can we have the contaminated soil located closest to Clement, so in that reconfigured stockpile, moved first?
I would anticipate, I would say yes, that's the closest to the gate. That's the trucks are going to come in there and they're going to load that first. There may be stockpiles in the back that get excavated first, and maybe those will be the first that get off-hauled. But we're in this business not to lengthen the time of construction. I'm in the business of moving in and getting it going and getting out. So at the earliest possible moment that soil that I get confirmation from our third-party dust control NGO who's monitoring this, that we can move that soil off-site, it's gone.
Okay, Anthony, if you'd like to just type your email in the chat, you can just type it to me individually or to Greg Townsend. We're happy to send you an email out when we start moving those stockpiles so that you know what's going on, because I think part of I think it'll reassure you to have real-time information what's happening, and we're happy to send you. We have weekending reports, and we're happy to send you the weekending report and also just a heads up, hey, the soil is going to get stockpiled, and hey, now it's going to be being cleared from the site. And I just got your email, so that sounds like you like that idea. So good. Okay. Let's see. I think we did that answer. Okay, other questions? We're so happy you guys are asking questions. I just, we work hard on these meetings, so we're glad that you're involved and that we're interacting with you. Thank you for that. We appreciate it. Okay. I'm thinking we've probably asked most folks questions. Anthony, we've gotten your email. Anybody else? So if there's one more, anybody else that would like to be added to our weekending reports or has something specific they want us to tell them about, please give us your email and we're happy to add you to that, but we won't do it without your permission. And we have a question and answer that's actually a nice comment. It says, thank you. And we'd like to say thank you back to all of you. So I am going to hand this over to Dylan to close it out. And I would just like, again, to say thank you to everybody that participated. Greg has put the GeoTracker link in the chat box. And thank you. And then Dylan, would you just say good night and thanks?
Yeah. So I'm gonna just chime in on it is nice for us to have people come on to the meetings. That's why we're doing it. So we want to move through this piece smoothly. We know that you have been impacted by previous activities. We know you will be impacted for a long time in your community because there's a giant development across the street. And it is my goal as an agency and Drew's goal to do our part to make sure that the things that we oversee are done effectively and smoothly. I have a lot of confidence in this team. I have a lot of confidence in this team, and I have confidence in you that you will let me know if it's not working out so well. And that's the best we can do. And I think the comments tonight were good. I think the moving of the stockpile, just rotating it is right. I think taking that stockpile off the site first is smart. Those are all good things. And I appreciate everybody thinking and putting their heads together. And hopefully in a month and a half, we'll be done with this piece, right, Mark?
That is correct.
Yeah. And I just got a question that said we can't open this link to GeoTracker. So Greg, maybe you can cut and paste and do it again. I'm not sure why. Oh, it says the site can't be reached. So I will make sure that we update that. I'm not sure what is going on there. So I will stay on, Greg and I will stay on until we get that right. And I think we can dismiss everybody else and say thank you. Alternatively, Penny, if you'd like to give me your email, I'm happy to email you an active link. Why don't we handle it that way, and I'll email it to the other two folks that have asked for updates. How's that? Let's do that instead of keeping everybody after the hour. So with that, I'd like to say thank you, everybody. And Penny, please, we'll wait for your email and then we'll let everybody go. Oh, we got it. So thanks so much and have a great night. Once again, any issues, give me a call. I'm here to help you. Thank you.
So much.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.